the technical stuff out of the side. Utlakut, good morning. My name's Gwen Healy. I come from Iqaluit, and that's where I'm talking to you from today. So I'm looking out the window at a beautiful sunny day across the bay, and it's about +10, and our Arctic summers swing between sun and rain, and so yesterday I was wearing a fleece, and today I'm wearing a t-shirt. so it's lovely here. I hope it is down there in Ontario as well. So I'm here today to talk about the story of the Inunnguiniq Parenting Program. And before we start with that, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about myself, so you know why I'm speaking to you today. So I'm from Iqaluit. I was born and raised here. My formal training is in community health and epidemiology, and I did my PhD in public health at the University of Toronto. And I'm the executive and scientific director and the co-founder of the Qaujigiartiit Health Research Centre. So our center is an independent community center, and we work to answer the health questions of our communities. And so our center really grew out of a climate where research was being conducted here in Nunavut that didn't necessarily focus on the questions that we had and the types of information that we need to address some of the challenges in our communities. And so our center focuses entirely on that. I am an academic, I guess, by default. I'm an assistant professor at the Northern Ontario School of Medicine, and also I have an appointment at the University of Guelph in their Department of Population Medicine as well. But I'm a lot of other things too. We're more than just our professional selves. I am a mother of 2 girls and a wife. My husband is also from Nunavut, and we have 2 young girls, and a sister and a community member, and involved in the schools and lots of other things happening in our community. And so that's a little bit about myself. As I said, Qaujigiartiit is a community-led center, and we focus on the health and research priorities of our communities. Our focus is on enabling projects to be implemented by Nunavut in a supportive and safe and culturally sensitive and ethical environment. And we work within a model that promotes the inclusion of Inuit so Inuit knowledge and Western scientific knowledge and in all kinds of knowledge in addressing the health concerns of our communities and fostering healthy environments for future generations. So we believe that all knowledge is valuable, and that everybody has something to contribute if it means we're working together to improve the health of our communities. And so for this particular topic, I wanted to give a little bit of context here for if any of our participants on this webinar are not familiar with some of the history of our region. So the context of family lives for Inuit changed very quickly and significantly around the middle of the last century, the 20th century, and where formerly people had lived primarily on the land in a nomadic way. Camps or kinship groups were forced to move into settlement areas around the 50s and 60s. And there were a number of reasons for that related to an outbreak of several illnesses. There was a mass die-off of caribou in one region, and people were starving, and a photographer who was quite famous, George Harrington, went to that region in central Nunavut and took all these photographs of people who were starving in the camps in that area, and then they were published in the Globe and Mail, and it became a national incident that resulted in a number of policies implemented by the federal government to provide help and relief, and sort of initiated a number of other policies related to governance in the Eastern Arctic. And so life changed very quickly at that time. And of course, that impacted how knowledge and beliefs and information about childrearing and family, how all of that was transmitted within families and kinship groups to working within a new system that involved schools, residential schools, and the separation of parents and children, and quite a different environment than what existed previously. And so the Inunnguiniq program for us, so goes way, way, way back. Inunnguiniq means the crafting of a capable human being. It's a very rich philosophical concept to become a capable, able, contributing individual in society. And for us, the idea for the program itself goes way back to sort of 10 years ago, where we were holding public engagement sessions in different communities across Nunavut, and people came from all over the place. I mean, we have 25 geographically distinct and communities, and people say isolated because the only way in or out is by plane or boat. We don't have roads that connect our communities. And so folks were coming from everywhere. We had mayors, and we had stay-at-home moms, we had public health nurses and policy people, and everybody was coming out to these public engagement sessions to talk about what health priorities and health research priorities they wanted to see everyone focus on. And one of the primary topics that came from our communities was related to parenting. People said, we need help, we need support with parenting in our communities because of this sort of series of events, traumatic events that really powerfully impacted our families here, and really prohibited the transmission of knowledge around child rearing as a result. And so we thought to ourselves, well, we're a research center. How are we going to do this? Develop a parenting program. And so actually we developed we had a larger program of research at our center focusing on the mental health of children and youth. And of course, one of the positive aspects that contributes to positive mental health among children and youth is strong attachments and support from loving caregivers. And so we developed the program as part of that project. And it was developed with teachers and elders, parents, and like community wellness program facilitators from across the territory. We talked to so many people, and they provided such wonderful information and feedback about the types of support that were needed and what they would like to see in such a program. And then we worked with an elders advisory committee, which exists here in Nunavut. It was formed when the territory was formed in 1999, and elders from all across the territory sit on this committee, and it convenes 3 times a year, 3 or 4, depending on how busy everybody is, I think. And they convene several times a year, and at each meeting they're talking about different topics. And all of it has always been recorded and transcribed. And so over the years, they had several conversations about child rearing, and they gave us all the information that they had about child rearing and all of the discussions they had. And they had started developing a series of pamphlets, which I'll show you in a moment, which also became enveloped in our program. And so the teachings from the Elders Advisory Committee and other forms of knowledge about child development were all combined into this program. And so the program really focuses on understanding the relationships between parents or caregivers and children, children and their extended family and community, which is a really rich and beautiful part of our life here in our communities. Is that there's that saying that it takes a community to raise a child, and it's very enriching for children to have connections to their extended family and others in the community who provide teachings and support and love in a variety of ways as they grow up. And the program also focuses on parents in their community and our place in the world. And so how do I advance this? There we go. And so this is a quote from Qaujigiartiit, who oversees the Elders Advisory Committee, and they were talking about the impact of colonization on parenting. And so what he said was, we want to understand how Inuit in the past were successful at teaching their children about the Inunnguiniq principles that helped them back then, because we feel the same principles can help our children today. To look at things from this perspective and continue to develop the skills that will help them to have a productive life and to be helpful to others in need. So I think that very beautifully sums up the motivation behind developing the program. So this is a little screenshot, I hope you can see it, of one of the pamphlets. So as I was saying, the Elders Advisory Committee had started organizing, the material had started being organized into a series of pamphlets on the stages of child development from 0 up to 18 years old. So in total, after completion, there are 22 individual pamphlets on all of the stages of development from the perspective of elders from 0 to 18 years old. So this is the one for a 6-year-old. And the way it's organized is, this is the outside of the pamphlet. So what's special about me, how their character is developing, how they're communicating, the types of skills they're capable of developing at that age. And then in the center panel, every pamphlet focuses on a different value of our communities. And this one in particular is about love. And sorry, was there a question, or I just heard some voice on the audio. Shall I keep going? Okay, I'll just keep going. So this one is about love and the ways we show love to our children and how they show love in return. Usually at the bottom there's a little reminder, like reminder to teach them to brush their teeth, or on the 4-year-old one, it's a reminder to go take your child to the kindergarten screening, which happens in the spring before kindergarten starts in the fall, and the kids get their eyes and everything checked, and a reminder to teach them to blow their noses and other things that they're capable of doing. So there's always a little tip in the back. And then on the inside, there's information for the parents about this age, so what 6-year-olds are doing socially and physically, what parents can do, so what we can do and the types of responsibilities we have as parents for that age group, parents and caregivers, and then the skills that we can practice as parents and caregivers. So in different activities we can do with the kids, practicing memory games or playing games outside, to engage in gross motor skills and all of those kinds of fun things. More tips for parents and some quotes as well. So all of the pamphlets, we try to make the pamphlets available to everybody who wants them. People often email us and ask us for copies. We do print runs for the schools because they find them useful, and for youth programs, they like the ones sort of for the 9 to 15-year-olds. So the pamphlets get some pretty wide usage. And so this information formed the basis of the program. There's so much wonderful, rich information here. And the way it was presented by the elders is very intuitive and easy to understand, and it's one of our most popular resources. And so the philosophy of Inunnguiniq that forms the foundation of the bigger program are these 6 principles. So The first is we're teaching children to develop habits for living a good life. And that means showing kindness to others, being helpful to others, contributing around the house and helping your friends. The second is rise above hardship through continual solution seeking. So we're teaching children that they're capable of solving their problems. And I say this to my girls, they're 5 and 8. I say this all the time when they're arguing over something with each other. I said, you've got to solve your problem. You guys, I know you're capable of doing it. And then they will. So once they pull themselves out of their argument, that we work towards solving problems. Building a strong moral character and being heart-centered. So Inunnguiniq is about thinking with the heart. And one of the elders said, we teach children to think with their hearts and then their minds will follow. And so that involves, again, showing kindness, helping others, being aware of what's happening around you, being aware of your environment and how your actions have, of the types of implications that come from our actions. And so then the fourth is showing compassion and serving others and paying attention to relationship building. And so that is showing respect for the relationships, the ways in which we're connected in our community through our biological families, through adoptive families, through custom adoption, through the naming relationship. I know this is not unique to Inuit communities, but here when children are named, they're often named after a loved one who passed or someone who's still alive but who is of great importance to the family, and that naming relationship is very significant, and children will often be referred to by their namesake and the relationship an individual might have had with that namesake. And so that child is then connected to so many people through all of these different relationships, and showing respect for those relationships and understanding them is very important. And so that's a critical component actually in the program. One whole session is on just the naming relationship and understanding what that means in the community. The fifth is recognizing the uniqueness of each individual. So every child is different. Every person is different. Everyone has strengths, and everyone has areas they want to work on, including all of us as parents and caregivers. So for the program, recognizing the capabilities of children and fostering them where we can is also one area, and then continually making improvements until one becomes able. So we're teaching children that they're always learning, and we're teaching ourselves as parents and caregivers and grandparents as well, that we're always learning. We're all on a learning journey, and we don't always, we don't all know it all right from the outset. In fact, I find every day that I know very little, and my kids surprise me every day. And we're constantly making improvements. We're all learning together, and so that's one of the key components as well. We're all building our skills. It means we're learning how to cook healthier meals, or budget, or making more time to do activities with the kids, or maybe we never learned how to fish, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to learn how to fish, and we're going to do it with the kids. That we're always moving positively toward making improvements for ourselves and for our families. And so the other aspects of the program that we focused on and that were brought to us by our community members in those original sessions when we discussed the program was focusing on a decolonizing and trauma-informed approach. So recognizing the need for healing from the traumatic events of separation and settlement in the past, and which continued for several decades and impacted multiple generations of our families here. So recognizing the healing from those events and other traumas that are related in our communities, allowing people time to grieve for what was lost. So we spend the first couple of sessions just creating a space for that grief to be expressed, and then moving forward in a positive way from that. Supporting the process of becoming self-aware. So we work on some activities that promote self-reflection and self-awareness and identifying our strengths and our capabilities. We work on strengthening self-esteem and confidence as parents through cultural teachings. The program is co-facilitated by elders in whichever communities this is possible, and elders want to participate, and they share their stories and their experiences with parents and caregivers in the program. And then we build in time for healing in land camps for families across the community and generation. So wherever and whenever this is possible, we try to make sure there's time on the land in the program. And the weather gets us a lot. Every time we've got a land program booked, we have a blizzard. So we do our best for sure to make sure this happens. And it happens, and other programs exist across Nunavut that are not related to Inunnguiniq, which do specifically focus on healing through land-based programs. And so we often make connections with those other programs as well to make sure the families who attend Inunnguiniq also have the opportunity to connect with other programs to, again, expand on their skills and their strengths and to continue to keep learning, keep on their learning journey. There. The other component to the program is as I sort of touched on it before, is the key focus on relationships and the relational worldview of our communities, where we're all connected through mutually supportive relationships. And that means relationships with other families and other parents, with the elder mentors who are part of the program, our relationships with our children and extended families, our relationship with the land and nature and our role as stewards of the land, and how all of that fosters our sense of family and belonging. And in this photograph is Shirley Tagalik, and she's one of our instructors for the Inunnguiniq program, and she was also one of the writers of the curriculum program. So she's showing her grandkids a little baby bird. And so relationships, the naming relationship, the connection through relationship through the midwife, the sanai, they're all articulated in different ways through the program, and it's actually one of the parts of the program that parents really strongly connect with, because they either weren't necessarily always as aware of the critical role that those relationships play in our communities and how we acknowledge them and celebrate them, or they had been disconnected from those relationships because of trauma for various reasons, and move forward in a positive way to reconnecting them and reforming them. So that's really exciting. Yes, reconnecting people. So, so as I was saying, the philosophy is about understanding the need for healing and support, this photograph is of a healing manual developed by Iqaluit from Pamphlets, Nunavut, and it's one of the resources we hand out as well in the program for our facilitators, and it's a beautiful visual resource. It's available free online as well. If you Google it, you can download the PDF. A beautiful visual resource for working with parents and families on the ways in which we can move forward in a positive way on a healing journey. So about looking to the past to move forward into the future, and visualizing family relationships and kinships as the strength of Inuit Qaujigiartiit and the strength of our communities and knowledge. So one more component of the program, well, there are two more that I'm going to talk about. This is one more. There's a very significant focus in the program in every module on storytelling. Inunnguiniq is the philosophy of story and the power and meaning of story. And storytelling is a really important and powerful way to communicate here. And actually, at our research center, we're also developing an app for orienting new healthcare workers to our communities and our healthcare system here in Nunavut. And one component of the app is dedicated to explaining how people speak in stories. And whether it's in a room with children and we're telling stories that convey morals and values, or we're sitting in a doctor's office and we're trying to explain what we're feeling or what we've experienced, and sometimes that comes out as a story. And so it's in the world around us. And so some of the old stories, if anybody is familiar with them, that are in the program are about Qaujigiartiit. And Qaujigiartiit is a very popular character, a hero in one of our colleagues says he's a very popular hero in Inuit mythology. But who's to say if it's myth or legend, or every myth is embedded in a story of truth, I think is how it's been phrased in the past. But so Qaujigiartiit there are many stories about Qaujigiartiit and his many feats and exciting adventures. And they say that he is now traveling the world, learning about people all over the globe in his kayak before he returns home to the Inuit. And there are films about him and many stories about him. And so many of these stories are incorporated into the program in different ways. And the story of Qaujigiartiit, who was an orphan boy and who overcomes many personal obstacles with support and teachings to reclaim who he is as a human being. And many old stories and songs, they convey so much. They provide information, really deep and rich meanings, and depending on where we are in our lives, we take something different away from the story every time we hear it. And I find as I get older and I continue to hear the stories that I've heard since I was a child, I take away more and more. I think as we get older, maybe we become wiser, hopefully, and we learn more from the stories. And so they're woven into the program in various ways, and they're the focus of a lot of activities. And so that's another part that the parents enjoy, is the opportunity to revitalize the older stories and to help parents develop their own stories about their children. And one of the activities in the program is they work on a book telling a story about their children or the children that they're caring for. And so that's a really fun part of the program as well. And we also embedded stories into a different program that we run for youth called Makimautiksa. That means building a foundation within oneself. And it's a community and land-based program, and the stories are in that program as well. And lastly, one of the key areas, of course, in the program is skill building. Tilimmaksalnuk is the term to describe the development of skills through effort and practice and action. So learning by doing. So in the program, we're understanding how children develop skills at the different stages, like through the pamphlets, but also in our discussions in the program, and how we can nurture their capabilities if they're good with their if they love working with their hands, or if they love making art, if they love cooking, if they love being outside and learning about plants, if they are interested in butchering animals and learning about biology, how are we developing those skills and nurturing those capabilities in children? We're continually improving ourselves as parents and building our own skills, like through developing maybe a chore chart or a budget or family shopping lists or family talking circles, reconnecting in relationships with our extended family through different ways, or in our community through different ways, the ways we're contributing to the schools or to the activities that our children are engaged in. That's what that section focuses on. And then focusing on Inuktitut, on Inuit languages, Inuktitut, Inunnguiniq, the types of behaviors we're modeling and things like that. Developing our abilities in songs and stories and things like that as well. Literacy, numeracy. And so those are all the key components of the program. And I just wanted to spend a minute talking about what's next for us. So the program right now is unfolding across Nunavut in different communities. About 100 people have been trained in how to deliver the program, and about 25% of those people are delivering it as a drop-in program, either at a community wellness center or within a high school. It's been delivered in that way. And then we've also piloted it in the Women's Correctional Center and in the Men's Correctional Center here, and with really great and positive outcomes. And so we've now engaged in a project over the next 5 years to adapt the program to a shorter, more intensive delivery basically to be delivered in institutional settings like treatment centers or corrections facilities and healing centers. So that's just starting now this fall. And then the other 75% of people who've been trained in the program are using it in their frontline work with families, either as family lawyers or social workers, teachers, and community members who are working in wellness programs and maternal child health workers and nursing students, and we've all kinds of people come out, just community members who want to be helping and contributing and are passionate about parenting and child rearing, and are coming out and taking the training for the program and then implementing it in their work in their communities. And so we expanded our partnerships to different agencies in the government of Nunavut to provide training over the next year. So we have 6 or 7 more training sessions coming up. So to become trained in the program is a 5-day course, and then after that people are certified to deliver the program in their communities and their agencies. And then we're also we've developed a program this year called the Inunnguiniq Mentorship Program, and the participants in that program are participating in 4 different training sessions in 3 different regions of Nunavut. We find that Inunnguiniq is articulated differently and beautifully in each region, and we want the participants in our mentorship program to have the opportunity to learn from elders in different regions and community members in different regions on how Inunnguiniq is articulated. And then at the end of the year, after this immersive experiential learning process, they're going to do some writing about it and reflection on it. And we're hoping that this is the beginning of an opportunity to develop it into a graduate level, sort of 1-year immersive experiential graduate level program. So wouldn't it be great to develop a master's in Inunnguiniq for our early child care workers and people who are interested in pursuing this kind of learning. And so we have 4 mentees in that program this year, and so then they will become institutional mentors in their workplaces. So they will be responsible for implementing Inunnguiniq throughout their workplace. And so one has got a nursing background, one is working in a community wellness center, one is works for an early childhood center, an early childhood care center, and the 4th one, just thinking in my head who they are, also works in early childhood. So and so that's where we're taking the program now, and we're continuing to expand our partnerships to provide training to frontline workers and everyone really who's interested across the territory and beyond. So with that, I would like to say, I think I went through that pretty quickly, and I'm definitely open to questions. Our contact information is there. Nicole is our Community Health Research Coordinator, and she oversees the implementation of the program in communities and the training sessions that we offer. And our website is there. We have lots of information on the program on our website. We have information sheets as well as a 5-year evaluation of the program and some posters and things like that. And we're always open to being, to requests for resources and things like that. We don't hand out the curriculum guide to anyone who hasn't taken the training. So in order to get all the program resources, you have to take the training. Simply because it's really rich and in-depth, and it's hard to understand how to use the resources without having had some guidance from an elder along the way. So, so thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, thank you, Gwen. This was an amazing presentation, and I'm going to reflect some comments. And what I told you personally, the visuals are just amazing, and your presentation too. Thank you. Okay, so we have a question. Are elders involved in the delivery of this program to parents?
Yes, definitely. So when we deliver the training for facilitators, the 5-day training, it's co-instructed by an elder then. And then when people go home and to their home community and implement the program there, they bring in different elders who might have expertise in different areas. So not all elders are all experts in early childhood, and some might not feel comfortable being an expert on every topic, but definitely the program is implemented with elders who come in and do sewing projects, some come in and help with the land trip, some come in and tell the stories, the old stories about Qaujigiartiit and Qaujigiartiit. Some come in and talk about child development and and skill development, and so definitely definitely elders are involved in a variety of ways. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And what is the uptake of this program?
Uptake by communities? I guess one of the challenges, it's a good question, one of the challenges we've had as a research center is we are, our philosophy is that we can help we can provide the evidence base, we can develop the program, ensure it's evidence-based, rigorously evaluate it, we can do the education and the training, but we want our communities, of course, to be implementing it. So, because we're not service providers, and our communities are full of fantastic, wonderful, passionate service providers and frontline staff and just grandparents and passionate community members who want to be doing this. And so to access funding at the community level to do it, they have to usually apply for funds through community wellness programs or through their hamlet council. And so the funding isn't always consistently available to them. And so we have found that it kind of happens in fits and starts, like when there's, there's money left over at the end of the fiscal year, and some, it becomes available, and so somebody runs a program. It's not a sustainable way to do it, and one of the things we've been looking at is, and talking to our partners about, is finding a way to ensure its sustainability. But there are some communities that have really sort of long-term community wellness centers, and we find that it's finding a great home there. And so it's definitely, we found that there's been really great interest in the schools for teen parents, but it hasn't been implemented consistently, usually because of turnover. So I guess it's something we're still struggling with, that sustainability piece. And then we find the frontline workers who have taken the training, not to run the program, but to incorporate it in their practice, are doing that. Almost everyone. We're actually just doing a follow-up survey of all of the trainees in the program over the last 5 years to find out how they're using it in their practice, and then to make sure that we've got the types of resources they need to incorporate in their practice. And so we're finding that a lot of those people are using it in their practice. Even family lawyers, people are handing out the pamphlets, and social workers will sit down and take the pamphlet for an 8-year-old and with a parent and say, okay, this is what your child is doing, and what are you going to work on this week, and let's figure out a way to do this together. And so so I guess so it's a long answer to the question. I think the program itself, the uptake is, the desire is there, but the funding is not always there. And then in terms of implementing it in practice, we find the uptake's really great, and we're constantly looking for opportunities and ways to get resources out to people. So we continue to work on sustainability.
Well, thank you, Gwen. We have a comment from Triple P Canada. Wonderful ideas. We would love to hear more about the 5-year evaluation. Can you comment on that?
Sure. Okay. So, this is the first time that such a program had been developed. We had done an evaluation of an implementation of Nobody's Perfect before we started developing the Inunnguiniq program, and so we had a lot of feedback from parents, and then, as I said, we collected feedback from lots of other people on what people were looking for in a program. And so we developed it all from scratch, and we wanted to evaluate as we went. So as we piloted it in, I believe, 10 communities, to stretch my memory back to then, 2011, but yeah, 10 communities originally, and then 4 in the second round. So in the first pilot of 10, this was over 5 years, so we did a pilot over 10 communities, and and then we evaluated we collected data on who was coming and what their feedback was on the program. We had regular phone calls with all the facilitators who were delivering the program on their observations, on what was working and what was not. And then we took all that and we did a rewrite of the whole program. And we worked with the Nunavut Literacy Council to ensure that the materials were at an accessible literacy level for our community members in English and in Inuktitut. All of the materials are available in both languages. And then we reprinted everything, and we have a curriculum guide, and we have a participant handbook, and we have a facilitator's manual. So there's a set of 3 books with the program. So we reprinted everything, and we piloted it a second time in the 5-year period in 4 communities. So we had funding only for 4 of the original communities to pilot again, and collected all the feedback again, and then made final adjustments to the program, and then we launched it in 2015. And even now, actually, like, we continue to evaluate it as we go, and so we've had new feedback even from parents and facilitators since 2015, and we're launching a 4th edition of the curriculum this fall, where we've added more activities and more information and updates on things like internet safety, which is coming up a lot from parents, and how how to manage that in the home and how to talk to kids about it. Internet safety, they wanted resources for quitting smoking because we have very high rates of smoking, things like that. So we're trying to make sure it stays updated and relevant to for our parents. And so the 5-year evaluation looked at all components of the curriculum and the experience of parents and the degree to which they aligned with the values articulated by the elders. And it's available on our website if you want more detail. It's quite a big document. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for all your answers. That was the last one, and Triple P says thanks very much. And we would like to thank you also for the webinar and the presentation. So as I can see, people can also reach you via your email if they have further questions, correct?
Yes, yeah, sorry, yeah, definitely. They can do that. Okay. And some of this information is also in the Qaujigiartiit document that you showed at the beginning of the webinar. Yes. We included some Inunnguiniq information in there as well. So there's more information.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you everybody for attending this webinar. A reminder